Daily Words of God.
God's wrath is a safeguard for all just forces and all positive things. God's intolerance of offense is His exclusive substance. God's wrath is His exclusive disposition. God's majesty is His exclusive substance. The principle behind God's anger demonstrates the identity and status that only He possesses. One needs not mention that it is also a symbol of the substance of the unique God Himself. God's disposition is His own inherent substance. It does not change at all with the passage of time, nor does it change whenever the location changes. His inherent disposition is His intrinsic substance. Regardless of whom He carries out His work upon, His substance does not change, and neither does His righteous disposition. When one angers God, that which He sends forth is His inherent disposition. At this time, the principle behind His anger does not change, nor do His unique identity and status. He does not grow angry because of a change in His substance, or because His disposition has produced different elements, but because man's opposition against Him offends His disposition. Man's flagrant provocation of God is a severe challenge to God's own identity and status. In God's view, when man challenges Him, man is contesting Him and testing His anger. When man opposes God, when man contests God, when man continuously tests God's anger, which is also when sin runs rampant, God's wrath will naturally reveal and present itself. Therefore, God's expression of His wrath symbolizes that all evil forces will cease to exist. It symbolizes that all hostile forces will be destroyed. This is the uniqueness of God's righteous disposition. And it is the uniqueness of God's wrath. When God's dignity and holiness are challenged, when just forces are obstructed and unseen by man, God will send forth His wrath. Because of God's substance, all those forces on earth which contest God, oppose Him, and contend with Him are evil, corrupt, and unjust. They come from and belong to Satan. Because God is just, of the light, and flawlessly holy, all things evil, corrupt, and belonging to Satan will vanish with the release of God's wrath. Although the outpouring of God's wrath is one aspect of the expression of His righteous disposition, God's anger is by no means indiscriminate as to its target, or without principle. To the contrary, God is not at all quick to anger, nor does He rashly reveal His wrath and His majesty. Additionally, God's wrath is considerably controlled and measured. It is not at all comparable to how man will flare into a rage or vent his anger. Many conversations between man and God are recorded in the Bible. The words of some of these individuals were shallow, ignorant, and infantile, but God did not strike them down, nor did He condemn them. In particular, during Job's trial, how did Jehovah God treat Job's 3 friends and the others after He heard the words that they spoke to Job? Did He condemn them? Did He fly into a rage at them? He did nothing of the sort. Instead, he told Job to entreat for them, to pray for them. God, on the other hand, did not take their faults to heart. These instances all represent the primary attitude with which God treats corrupt, ignorant humanity. Therefore, the release of God's wrath is by no means an expression or venting of His mood. God's wrath is not a full-blown eruption of rage, as man understands it. God does not release His wrath because He is unable to control His own mood, or because His anger has reached its boiling point and must be vented. To the contrary, His wrath is a display of His righteous disposition, and a genuine expression of His righteous disposition. It is a symbolic revelation of His holy substance. God is wrath, tolerant of no offense. This is not to say that God's anger does not distinguish among causes or is unprincipled. It is corrupt humanity that has an exclusive patent on unprincipled, random bursts of rage that does not distinguish among causes. Once a man has status, he will often find it difficult to control his mood, and so he will enjoy seizing upon instances to express his dissatisfaction and vent his emotions. He will often flare up into rage for no apparent reason, so as to reveal his ability and let others know that his status and identity are different from those of ordinary people. Of course, corrupt people without any status will also frequently lose control. Their anger is frequently caused by damage to their individual benefits. In order to protect their own status and dignity, corrupt mankind will frequently vent their emotions and reveal their arrogant nature. Man will flare up in anger and vent his emotions in order to defend the existence of sin. And these actions are the ways with which man expresses his dissatisfaction. These actions brim with defilement. They brim with schemes and intrigues. They brim with man's corruption and evil. More than that, they brim with man's wild ambitions and desires. When justice contests wickedness, man will not flare up into anger to defend the existence of justice. Contrarily, when the forces of justice are threatened, persecuted, and attacked, man's attitude is one of overlooking, evading, or flinching. However, when facing the forces of evil, man's attitude is one of catering and of bowing and scraping. Therefore, man's venting is an escape for evil forces, an expression of the rampant and unstoppable evil conduct of the fleshly man. When God sends forth His wrath, however, all evil forces will be stopped. All sins of harming man will be stopped. All hostile forces that obstruct God's work will be made apparent, separated, and cursed. All of Satan's accomplices who oppose God will be punished, rooted out. In their place, God's work will proceed free of any obstacles. God's management plan will continue to develop step by step according to schedule. God's chosen people will be free of Satan's disturbance and deceit. Those who follow God will enjoy God's leadership and supply among tranquil and peaceful surroundings. God's wrath is a safeguard preventing all evil forces from multiplying and running rampant. And it is also a safeguard that protects the existence and spread of all just and positive things, and eternally guards them from suppression and subversion.